Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Good for the Soul. This is episode number 8. In this episode, I sit down with Kyle McCutchen. He is the owner of Kindred Jiujitsu in Edmonds, Washington. So that's going to be kindredjj.com. So if you're in that area, go check it out. Kyle's been training for many years, right? So I think he's had his black belt as long as I've been training. I think in the neighborhood of 17-ish years training jiu-jitsu. But on top of that, he's also been a police officer for quite some years. So he has a great perspective on jiu-jitsu life, police officers in the community. So I was super excited to sit down and chat with him. I've known of Kyle for quite a long time, right? So I trained in Seattle, or did for a long time, and his gym was in Edmonds, only a few minutes outside of Seattle. And seeing on social media, and some of my mutual friends had trained with him in the past, or at his school, so I kind of always knew of him. But Kyle is Team Jiujitsu, right? He's a great guy, and it's really cool what I think he does for the jiu-jitsu community in the Northwest, right? So he's always putting on seminars with high-level people, bringing them up, and so I actually went to Josh Hinger's seminar at Kindred for the first time. So that's when I actually met him in person for the first time and got to train at that gym. So that was 2 or 3 years ago. And then from there, hey, we kind of became online friends. We found out we had way more mutual friends than expected. So Greg Anderson, he knows Ivan. Then he ended up attending one of the Guns and Geese. And then I saw him running stairs one day on social media. I was like, yo, let me come join you. We actually live in the same neighborhood. And then I started coming up and visiting a little bit. And last year, 2021 and some of 2020, we kept trying to get some rounds in together. But he was injured. And then I was injured for 9 months. So we weren't able to make it happen up until pretty recently, which was fun. And then I think we trained 3 or 4 times before I actually ended up getting on the road. So yeah, it was a super blast. Him and I have been talking and kicking it for a little bit now. Great guy. Kyle, I appreciate the hospitality, so thank you very much for sitting down with me and talking jiu-jitsu, talking life, and giving me your perspective. So hopefully you guys get something out of this. And before we jump into that episode, guys, I just want to remind you, check out jockofuel.com. Get yourself 10% off by using the code GOODFORTHESOUL. They got protein powders, supplements, all the stuff you need, right? I'm super excited to be able to partner with that company, right? I've been using their products for years, ever since I've heard of Jocko and Pete Roberts and what they're doing over there in Maine and what they're bringing what they're bringing to the market, right? It's a great product. It's all healthy stuff, right? The discipline goes, the protein powders, everything. So I'm a huge fan. Support yourself by getting an awesome product. Get 10% off, again, at jockofuel.com. Good for the soul at checkout. Make sure you put that in to get that discount. And guys, without further ado, here we go to the episode. Kyle McCutchen.
Are we going? We're rolling?
Yeah, we're just rolling. We're just bantering, talking jiu-jitsu, man. Again, good for the soul is the idea, and we know jiu-jitsu is good for the soul.
For sure.
And I appreciate you having me out here, man. It's been twice in the last week and a half. This has been awesome.
Yeah, no, glad to have you, man. We always like guests here. It's a community, and more so than our own private thing going on. We love sharing the mat, so it's always good to get visitors.
Yeah, man, that's one thing I've noticed a few times. I think 4 or 5 times I've been here now. You've done such a great job of that. I think better than a lot in the Northwest. You bring people in for seminars all the time. You have open door policy for the most part. It's a really cool atmosphere to walk into. So I really appreciate that.
That's what we strive for. It's in our name, right? It's and we have the regular people that train here. That's like the close family, but all of jiu-jitsu's family.
Yeah.
We don't like enemies. We're friends with everybody. In the world of human beings, right? It's there's really just a small community of jiu-jitsu people in the world, right? So we're all, as we kind of look at tribes and stuff. I know you like to talk about. It's it's still we expanded out, we're our own little club here, right? So of course we're gonna in competition and stuff, we're rooting for everybody. But overall, I root for jiu-jitsu when it comes down to it, right? It's it's a great way to connect with people, and they can be all the way across the world, and you always have that common bond, and that's one of the cool aspects to it.
Absolutely, man. And before I let you take it away, for sure. Yeah. I guess I have to give you even more gratitude, because the first time I was here 2 or 3 years ago was for the Josh Hinger seminar.
Okay.
So that was the first time I was here.
And now the Monoplata has become my favorite move.
Okay.
Because I always end up in triangles and, you know, somehow I'm finding it, right? So because of you putting that on, I now have a favorite move. So much appreciated for that, brother.
Yeah, I don't know that I can take any credit for that. I remember like at the time trying to explore with it. For whatever reason, it didn't get implemented to my game. Every now and again, I'll try like, how does this go again? And then I lose it. And like, shit, all right.
Well, it's one of those things where I forget sometimes to expand my own jiu-jitsu and go explore.
Yeah.
So I've seen him on Flow Grappling, you invited him up, and I got excited about it. So then I came here and I was like, cool, the one thing I learned in a seminar I hadn't been to one in a couple of years, I'm gonna focus only on this, you know? So just timing-wise happened to work out for me.
Yeah, and with him, it cleaned up some of the stuff I was working on with like the guillotine game and stuff. So just little details about, you know, the way he grips the jawline rather than just a chin and stuff that I picked up since then. It's like it's super strong. So just little details cleaned up things.
Yeah, I actually saw you implementing some of that tonight. Where you know you end up on your back, chin out, the chin and the tricep, bringing the knee up. I mean, it's a good flow, man. Well, man, where did you find your love for jiu-jitsu? Where did that come from?
Ooh, you know, I mean, it's a sort of cliche tale at this point, you know, for a lot of people of my generation. It's like, I started out, you know, I for whatever reason, I had a natural attraction to martial arts. You know, growing up, I was an 80s kid. You know, I watched The Karate Kid and like The Last Dragon and all these, you know, inspiring martial arts movies when I was a kid. And then one that I would watch literally on repeat was Bloodsport. So this idea of this like multi-martial art tournament was super attractive to me. So I got into karate pretty young. And you know, that was the way then. That was the only thing we knew. Like, well, karate is the way, because that was just everything that was cool at the time. Was something to do with that. Everything was karate, you know. I didn't delineate between karate and like, oh, Bruce Lee was Kung Fu or Jeet Kune Do or whatever. Like there was no, it's like, that's all just karate, you know, when you're a kid. So, you know, I started doing karate. I competed a little bit in karate. You know, got away from it a little bit, but always kind of had that attraction to martial arts. And then, you know, the UFC came in the early 90s and kind of turned everything on its head for what we thought fighting was. And, you know, like I said, this is a tale that you hear 100 times from people like my age, right? But it's true. It's like you saw that and you saw Hoist Gracie and the way he would win a fight and you're just like, what is this? And it was so curious and so foreign. You know, at the time, I as a teenager by then, you know, I was exploring like, man, where do you find this? But they're just, I have nothing I was aware of in the area. I think the best I found, I was like 16 or 17 and there was like a blue belt that was training at a Kung Fu school in Everett, which is where I grew up. And I was like, okay, well, I want to take that. And they were only doing like, well, you have to do a full like Kung Fu membership. And that's just like one class. And it was once a week. And I'm just like, you know, broke 16-year-old. And like, oh, I can't afford this. So I really didn't get going with it till I got in the Marine Corps in the late 90s. And I would commute out from Yuma, Arizona to Mira Mesa. And I was training at Fabio Santos School there. Oh, wow. That was where I first kind of threw a gi on. And
it was a great place to land.
Yeah, I mean, I had no point of reference for at the time of who that was. You know, he was a Brazilian and he had, you know, a heavy accent and, you know, a tattered black belt on. But, you know, I'm just like, okay, there's this guy, he's going to teach me jiu-jitsu. And, you know, I don't know who I shared a room with then, but, you know, some of the bigger names from now may have been in there. I wouldn't have known, you know. And it was a difficult thing to make last. And, I you know, it is when I first put on the gi, but it's hard to even call that really my first real, I don't know that I started jiu-jitsu then. It wasn't really until I moved back home. I started training at Charlie Pearson's and kind of got into MMA and tried my hand at amateur stuff. Wasn't very good, but I didn't aspire to do much, you know. It was more just like, I want to try this out, I want to go for it. I didn't, you know, and then, you know, things there, he was trying to make a team of fighters and stuff, and it was just more than I wanted. So, you know, I got into my current profession and I just kind of dappled with training for a while. And then when I decided to, you know, get back consistent, I still liked striking, but I think I just got to the point where like, you know, I liked the grappling better, and I started focusing more on jiu-jitsu and got in at Mike Simpson's there up in Lake Stevens, North Sound now is what it's called. And we were still in this I think it was just called tap or snap then, and we literally would like take these folding mats and put them out on the basketball court at Team Fitness there and hold class on the basketball court. That's where I really, threw the gi on and got consistent with it. And I don't know when that was.
Would you consider yourself, if you have the memory, were you a white belt still at that time when you started training then?
I wore a white belt, but I was not a white belt for long. Because at that point, I had a lot of grappling experience, just not in the gi. And it's actually our mutual friend Greg Anderson that because I knew him from Charlie's, and he was like, "Hey, come train jiu-jitsu," and he was training there with Mike Simpson, and so I was like, I wanted to get better at guard. That was like my main thing, and then I just discovered, I like jiu-jitsu just a little bit better, and it was not so. I found that in a jiu-jitsu school, it's a little different vibe.
Yeah.
As far as like it's a little more chill, not as much ego involved, and I was still hanging out in a couple of MMA schools there for a little bit, and then I just kind of gravitated away from it and leaned more towards, this side of stuff, and mainly been casual, not much of a competitor, but I have fun with it.
For sure. So did you know, out of curiosity, at the time, how big or transformational jiu-jitsu was going to be? Did you have any recognition of where it was going to go?
No, and I don't know that I really cared at the time, It was just like, you knew the people you trained with, and then that was like, kind of a second family, and that was there wasn't like a big push for me to go around and sell the art, and I don't know that there was anyone really like touting it as like, hey, this is going to better your life, as much now as like anybody that trains and has some kind of a voice is announcing it to the world, like, hey, you should be doing this. I think the people that were training kind of, hey man, I really have a good time doing this, and I always just thought it takes a special kind of person to want to do this, and some people just look at us like we're crazy, and now I don't, if someone wants to hear about it, I'll tell them about it, but I don't want to be one of those annoying people that's like every time we get in a room, we're talking about it. I think for people in my profession, I try and sell it as like, hey, you might not even know that you need this, but you need this. Like if you're gonna be a police officer out there working the street and you got no ability to fight, what are you doing? So and as far as like a direct translation, if you're gonna take one martial art that's going to work for you on the street in the capacity of law enforcement, like this is going to be the one, as far as like, hey, being able to protect yourself and get somebody into custody, like the skills provided, just as fundamental jiu-jitsu is probably the best translation to that job. Not striking focused, more control focused, and manipulating their body into a position to take control of them. And so now I definitely am selling my wares as far as like, absolutely. Hey, get on board with this, because if you don't have skills and you're out there seizing people, and people are going to fight with you if that's your job, then you need to know how to do this stuff. Otherwise, what are you doing?
So. Well, and to your point, in your immediate friends and family group, you can only talk about jiu-jitsu so much if they're not going to make the leap.
No, I mean, and I've learned that over time too, because I think there was, when the Joe Rogans and Jockos and such started really touting it, right? And then it was kind of like, hey, anybody that will listen, you're also talking to about it. But I've learned now, in the past 5 years, and also running this place is just like, we can say it's for everybody, but it's not for everybody. I think we know that. There's just some people, even people that come in here and try it out, and it's like, I want them to train. I want them to give it a real honest try. But there's just some people that you just know, like, this person's not going to hang around.
That's fair.
And so I do believe it could benefit everybody, but it's also not for everybody. So some people just don't get it and will never get it. So.
Well, and you touched on something that I've seen recently that was really cool. I believe you were doing some work with the Linwood Police Department. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So it was the first that I know of its kind, but basically we had a couple students here that are in law enforcement and work for that department, and we just kind of stumbled upon it, and just was kind of a casual conversation with one of them one day. I was like, hey, well, what is your department doing as far as like your defensive tactics training or your control tactics training? And he kind of voiced to me like, oh, we used to have a guy that would run some stuff sometimes, but he's moved on, and I don't really know, and we have all this kind of thing. And I just pitched it to him like, I'd love to work with it because it's pretty local to where the school is, and it just kind of got the ball rolling. And unbeknownst to me or him at the time, they had already been like actively searching for someone to really launch a program for their entire department. So he put me in touch with one of their commanders, and we got to talking, and I told them who I am, and kind of gave my resume and what I was looking to do, and what I could do for them. And at this point, as far as like, I'm a 19-year law enforcement, 19 years in law enforcement, and then a lot of that I've been a trainer. So I've been working at this and really trying to build a very robust program for something like this, right? If not for my own department, like whoever will have me. And so we got to talking, and he loved everything I said. He brought it to their chief, and we weren't really sure at what capacity we were going to try or what scope we were going to launch this at. Maybe it was just going to be a few handful of hardcores, which I was fine with, or maybe half the department or something, right? And he took it to their chief, and the chief's like, hey, the whole department's doing this.
Oh wow.
So
that's a lot of weight on your shoulders at that time.
But it was nothing I'm not used to. I mean, by comparison, Linwood to my own department, they're a tenth of the size, and I've been responsible for training my entire department. So that's a whole nother animal, right? This I felt could be managed, and it's not perfect. We basically on rotation we get their whole department through once a month a block of training. So they come through 4 times a month. We block out their department into 4 different groups, and they come through, and we get the entire department in a month, right? And so it's a 2-year thing. We're looking at basically 24 different sessions. So as you and I both know, if we only did 24 sessions of jiu-jitsu, how good are we really going to be? You've
done 24 this last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, again, it's not perfect, but it's something. And really in these sessions, I'm trying to encourage them like, hey, this is just baseline stuff. We're just trying to get you to an operational competency. Like this is not anything you're going to be super skillful at, but this is kind of the base fundamental things. And it's really conceptual. I don't come in and show a bunch of flashy moves about how to do this or that. I try and really simplify something that is really dynamic and make it as digestible as possible, and put it into 24 bites, I guess, right? And so they consume it, and hopefully by the end of it they have what I'm really just hoping for is a level of awareness to know they need more.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's all you can hope for, I guess. So what has the response been having started this? You've been at it for a couple months now.
We took a break through January for the spread of Omicron that just kind of it ravaged many departments as far as staffing goes. So they had to kind of put it on hiatus, but looks like we're going to get it back going next month, and that will be our 4th iteration of the 24.
Okay.
And it's all been well received. We're starting to get away, like some of the stuff is really eye-opening in the beginning, and we're probably going to get to some of the stuff that may be uncomfortable to them, some of the groundwork things, because it's just completely foreign. So we'll see how that goes over. But, unfortunately, that's just a part of it. If you're talking about controlling somebody, we don't do that on the feet by their wrist or whatever, the traditional police tactics work. It's like, hey, your best chance to get this person to custody is to get them to the ground and control them from there, right? So we got to put in that work. Of course. And many aren't comfortable with that, with no experience in that.
Right. Well, and maybe have you had any direct conversations with the chief of that department? Because he said, hey, everyone's doing it.
Chief comes through.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chief comes through. Yeah, he's one of the most attentive students. So,
I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Practicing what he's preaching. That's
absolutely got to, right? Yeah, I mean, I commend him as a leader. I don't know, I don't work for that department, but everything that I've seen from the outside is like, that's a true leader, which unfortunately is rare in law enforcement. You don't see it a lot. There's a lot of people that just pander to whatever the political flavor is at the time, and he seems to kind of march to the beat of his own drum, he seems to genuinely care about his people, and I think he truly believes that this is a route that's going to better the department, and therefore, you know, if a well-trained department is better for the citizenry of that city, you know,
absolutely,
they're just going to be safer for everybody, you know. And
so maybe this will be a two-part question, because typically I'm not speaking to people who are law enforcement instructors as well. What are you seeing on maybe the civilian side, man or woman, how they're able to really make that leap, walk through the doors for the first time in jiu-jitsu, and then also maybe on the department side, how a law enforcement officer, again, man or woman, can really commit themselves to saying, hey, like, I need to be doing this, you know, twofold, getting into jiu-jitsu for the first time.
You know, it's a varying thing, because as far as the entirety of, specifically speaking to the Linwood Police Department, there's people already coming in with skill sets. There's people that have done some training before, and they come in and they already understand some of the things that we're working on, and it's just a matter of maybe putting it to the concepts that I'm pushing. They might be a little bit different than what they were trained in. You have that all the way to people, like there's some people that just are you know, lowest common denominator types, and you do your best to try and get them caught up, and some, you know, just it's hard, and they're kind of set in their ways, and they you know, it's kind of the old dog new tricks thing. And you don't want to leave them behind, but at the same time there's a pace that you have to keep in to capture the overall collective, right? So it's challenging when it comes to that. When you have on one end of the spectrum, you know, there's people that come through that have competed in, you know, mixed martial arts or jiu-jitsu, and then you have, like I said, that people just have no concept for anything that's going on that I'm showing them, and I can't really teach to that level, right? Because if you do that, then you bring everybody down to there, and you're going to lose more than you're capturing, right? So it's kind of everything under the sun. And the good thing is that there's, like I said, when you go by concepts and principles, it's a running theme throughout. It doesn't go away. So even though we're four sessions deep starting next month, they're seeing things on repeat. So it's not, maybe they didn't get it month one, but when they hear it again month two, maybe it makes just a little bit more sense, and then month three a little bit more sense, and then really, if they get kind of the core concepts we're going for, you know, then that's all I can really ask of them. So even the one that would be considered like lowest common denominator, if they grasp just the general concepts by the end of this thing, I'm okay with that. You know. As far as like recognizing it as like, okay, this is important to me. That's really the point that I'm trying to drive home. Because in my opinion, and I've said this before, and I've said this before on forums such as this, but you as a part of being a law enforcement professional, you have to maintain your skills. It's required now. I mean, we've seen how everything goes when you get put into a position where it requires you to be at a certain level, and if you're overwhelmed, it's a disastrous outcome. And we've seen it too many times now, and the public doesn't tolerate it. And there's becoming more public awareness of the fact of our training practices as a whole. You know, I'm not speaking to any one department or area or anything. This is a nationwide thing, and I know that because I've networked with other people from other departments across this country, and there's just similar training practices no matter where you go. It just has never been made a priority. But now the public's becoming aware of that with these high-profile incidents of these things going down, and you just see a cop in over their head. And I think before, the public generally thought there was something nefarious happening here, right? But it's becoming, okay, well, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. I think if not to the general public, then at least to the people like behind the scenes that are seeing these things unfold, going like, we need to do better, you know? And you know, I've said this for a long time, where unfortunately it's going to take heads rolling of the rank and file, right, before they start going, wait a minute, this is an institutional thing. And start looking at the departments and holding the departments accountable. Like, you're not training your people. You know? And so what my message has been is like, you don't want to be one of those heads that roll. So if you don't want to be that, then you should take it upon yourself to make sure your skills are sharp.
Yep.
So two things that the department is not going to provide you. Training, and they're not going to make sure you're in shape.
Right.
So those two things are on you. Okay. If you don't have skills to control and arrest somebody, you should be working on those. You should also have skills with everything that you're going to carry.
Yeah.
You know, and that means your firearm. That means any less lethal force options that you carry, whether it's OC or taser or whatever it is, or a baton or whatever it is. You better know how to manipulate it and use it, and where it's applied, right? And we're even talking about like medical stuff, right?
Yep.
Are you carrying a tourniquet? Are you carrying an IFAC? Do you know how to use that stuff? Okay, so this is all stuff that departments, generally speaking, and I know there's some out there that are better at it than others, but aren't super awesome at, you know. And then when it comes time, it's not like you magically acquire these skills in the heat of the moment. So if you're not working on that stuff, you should take it upon yourself and see that as like being a professional.
Yes.
I'm in shape, I have skills, I know how to use all my equipment, you know, and I practice.
Absolutely. Well, so being responsible for your personal department's training, and now Linwood you have a heavy involvement in, have you seen people, maybe on the flip side of that have come to your practices and training sessions and maybe seen the reality of what contact grappling is, and maybe decided law enforcement wasn't for them, or you know, have you guys ever seen that?
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. Not that anything that's been exposed by, you know, my training.
Right.
What you'll generally see is an ego thing, right? Where they'll convince themselves they don't need this.
Yeah.
That's pretty common. Because it's hard, especially when you have a veteran cop that's been on the department and gotten by for 15, 20 plus years, not having this stuff. Now you're coming in and you're trying to tout, you know, these skill sets as, hey, this is where you need to be looking. And they, at this point, they're thinking in their head like, well, I've gotten by this far and I haven't needed it, right? And I do believe it's possible, you know, especially depending on where you work. Could you make it through an entire law enforcement career without having someone try and kill you? You could. You could.
Yeah.
You know, it's possible. But I also know people that got into some deadly encounters after having 30 years on, you know. They almost made it. And then they got into some crazy thing that went, you know, completely sideways. And it's not like there's this lead up to it always. You know, it's not like you're waking up in the morning, brushing your teeth, going, man, that guy's gonna try and kill me today. I better be on it, right?
Yep.
It happens in the blink of an eye many times.
Yes.
You know, and if you're not prepared for that, you know, then the outcome may not go your way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, I was gonna say that's something. I mean, why I'm trying to bring more people into jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
Because we can both agree. Hey, if that's your profession, it is your responsibility to stay prepared and all the things you were just describing. But also, I believe, hey, citizens need to take their own personal responsibility for their safety, right?
I agree wholeheartedly. Like, you know, like our buddy Greg always says, like, no one's coming to save you, right? That's kind of his mantra now, which I love that, and it's absolutely true. Like, the police are completely reactive, and I believe it is your duty as a citizen. I believe that every person, every American citizen should be trained and as not only in like skills of jiu-jitsu, but I believe everybody should know how to use a firearm and carry a firearm. You know, and I'm not talking about the criminal element. I'm talking about like your everyday person. I believe if you can't protect your own family, you know, that's a mistake. You know, and especially in this day and age. And you see where things are right now. You know, not only is it that the police are reactive, but now they're handcuffed. You know, like there's limited, like well now it's not only that legislation has changed and we're not sure really where that lies. I'm not one to complain about it, but it's changed and we really don't know where that's at as far as, you know, what we can and can't do. It's a more gray than it's been in a long time. So there's that. And then you have just numbers. I mean, there's people getting out of the profession like no time in my almost 20 years doing this job. People want out. It's been too much to bear. And I felt the stresses of it as well. You know, I'm pretty deep into my career and I feel okay with like what I'm doing now and where I'm at, but that could change, you know, and I may start taking a hard look at it. It's getting to the point where it's not worth it, right? So with that, as your everyday person, knowing that, okay, our police out there working, and again, I'm not going to make excuses like, oh, well, you know, they said we can't do this or that anymore. Like, there's some debate to be had there. It's not as clear cut as some are making it out to be as to what we can. The problem is that it's just not defined right now.
Right.
So we're out there doing the best we can with not really knowing how to do certain things right now. And then you're talking about low numbers. And just this apprehensiveness to actually, you know, take action. Like, I do believe that if you get into something, someone is coming, but, you know, we're talking minutes that it could take for the help to arrive. And, you know, and in some of these areas, maybe even longer. So I do believe that having skills as your everyday person is something that everybody should consider, you know.
So maybe directly related to that, right? You're a head coach of a gym. Clearly, you're practicing and preaching. What are some of the challenges that you've heard from new students that they've had to overcome? You know, 9 to 5, family, like how do they really make that leap, man or woman, into jiu-jitsu for the first time?
Yeah, and it's just like anything. You make time for what's important to you, you know? And man, I mean, we've all got things that we could be doing. We all do, you know, and I've got kids, I've got a career, I've got things going on. But everyone that's in my life knows that this is important to me. So we make time for it, you know? And if that means that, you know what, tonight I get 5 hours of sleep because I got to get up and start my day all over again, bright and early, dark and early, then that's what it takes. We do what's important. Now, sometimes if they're a new student and they're just getting into it, you know, there is kind of learning how to balance everything, sure. But you know, that is a challenge. It's like, okay, you found this new thing, and that's what I'm saying, and kind of going back to, you know, it's not for everybody. Some people, it just becomes that it's not worth spending time away from their family, you know, and there's no judgment. That's what, you know, that's kind of an easy out. It's probably the number one reason that I get, you know, the emails saying, hey, I got to stop my membership for now because it's something family related or just too much time away or work or whatever. It's like, I get it.
If you had to say something to that person, if you had to be like, hey man, like, to clearly explain the importance, what would your take, or what advice would you give them?
You know, it's tough because what do you say to that? Like, no, your family's not as important. No one wants to hear that. Honestly, that's kind of what I tell them. It's like, hey, family first, you know, and it should be that way. But if this is something that you want to pursue, there are ways to do it. You know, it's just a matter of establishing a routine. I think that's the biggest thing. Of just working it out with the significant other, or of the schedule with the kids, or, you know, how your work flows or whatever, is just kind of planning ahead. That's the biggest thing that I learned. It's like, my life can be completely chaotic, but as long as I've kind of got a map of things, is where I got to be at this time. That's literally how I have multiple calendars that kind of tell me where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Because there's so many things that are moving in my life. But as long as that's mapped out, then you know, I don't have a problem getting things in. Now, there's been times in my life where things are imbalanced and something suffers, you know, and so you constantly have to be checking that. But it's doable, you know, and that's I think the biggest advice is just like, if this is something that you truly want to pursue, plan for it, you know, even if it's just getting in a couple times a week. In the beginning, or however you got to do it. Maybe it's just once a week, but just make sure that you make the time for it somewhere, right? And there's plenty of opportunity, you know. Like we have something almost every day of the week. I think the only day, and even some Sundays we have stuff going on, but you know, at least 6 days a week we got something that you can do at some point of the day. So. It's hard. It's hard for me, and I know you're probably the same. It's like we hear that from somebody, and you're just like, bullshit, you know. But you got.
That's why I'm trying to get good answers to give to people. You know?
But you got to kind of keep it in, you know. But it's like but we're idiots also. Like, we're always training injured and everything else. Like, and I see people hurt. And I was like, you're not too hurt to train, you know. and it's like, but we're not built the same. Like, we're not the same as you know, some people. It's like, all I'll train through an injury, because for me, not training is unacceptable.
Right.
You know. So, but again, not everybody's built that way.
For you, because I know what drives me in that situation you're describing is like the fear of not being prepared.
Yeah.
Drives me to be like, well, I could get through this, because who knows if someone comes and attacks me on the street and I happen to have a bumped shoulder. Well, let me go work around that jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
What is it for you?
It's a little bit different for me, and I think Greg would agree. It's like when you're running a gym and everybody wants to kill you. I don't know if you notice, watch around in here, is like there's a bunch of blue belts that are lined up like waiting to have their shot, and no one's giving me a break.
Correct.
You know? And everybody's that way. It's like, and so I got to stay ahead of that, you know. And Father Time is not on my side, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's, eventually some of these people will surpass me skill-wise. So I still got to keep the big brother mentality on them, right?
Yep.
Like, you can't beat me, and I got to keep mind lock on them, right? So there's always that, and that's for me is like I don't want to become one of those school leaders that's irrelevant. Like I feel. At some point, right, I'm gonna be, you know, old and too broken to keep up with all the people we have going on here, right? It's like the youth will prevail at some time, right? But I still want to be relevant. Like I still want to keep with, you know, modern jiu-jitsu, whatever that happens to be 10 years from now. I want to at least know what it is. I don't want to look at something and you know. You know the type is just like, oh, that's all bullshit. Like old school jiu-jitsu, this and it's like, okay, but that like the white belt mentality always, you know, and like that to me still drives me. Of just there's so much out there compared to like when I first started and we're working on just this basic stuff, and not that I knew it all, but it was just like there's so much information that's literally at the touch of your finger that you can go out and explore and play with, and to me it's just still so fascinating that I've never just settled on anything. So there's just a constant pursuit going on, and like I said, balanced with that fear of I got to stay ahead of some of the killers in here. And I'm not even the best guy here. I mean, I think there's people that probably come to mind that you know give me a beating, but at least like I want to remain toward the top of the hill.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, as a coach, your hope probably is along the lines of, hey, I'm here to coach you guys to get better than me at some stage in life. You know,
and I'm okay with it. Like I'll take a beating. I don't care. You know, it doesn't bother me. I'm beyond that. You know, it just and if I don't get it here, I know where to go find it. You know, it's I know I'm never going to be the best in the world, and I'm okay with that. And I let go of that. I don't think I ever had that, but it's just for me, like I said, just being here and playing and learning new stuff and constantly pursuing new avenues of making jiu-jitsu work for you. It's just I don't ever see that stopping for me. It's just something I'll probably always enjoy.
Well, I really liked it, and what's funny is you don't know this yet, actually, because we didn't start talking on social media till this last year, and then my injuries and then yours, and you know, we finally connected was. I think after I come to the seminar, I started following you on Instagram, and I saw like, hey, your lifestyle, you're always traveling to different gyms, learning from different people. You know, I was like, that's a lifestyle I really like and appreciate that as a coach. You're really going out there to learn new information and also make your own game better in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and for me, that really just started as, you know, when I came here a decade ago, I was a purple belt, and really there was only another purple belt here, and then a slew of white belts. Everybody's brand new. It was a brand new school at the time, and I really didn't have anyone like guiding me or mentoring me along, and so I had to seek it. And so I always believed in cross training, and I, you know, hopped around enough to just like, man, you know, like there's plenty of sources out there. You just got to go find it. And you know, I'd kind of gone down and seen other schools, and now that's one of my favorite things to do is just go and experience, you know, how this school does it or how that school does it, and you know, meet people and network. And like I said, way back in the beginning of our conversation is like, you know, at the end of the day, I'm Team Jiu-Jitsu. And you're always going to have that bond. Like you can walk into a school somewhere else in some other part of the country, or I mean, I haven't done it yet, but some other part of the world. And you're going to have that same language, whether you even speak that language or not, is like, we know Jiu-Jitsu. And most people are pretty inviting, you know, as far as that goes, or at least they're going to let you take class for a drop-in fee or whatever, right? not all of them are just like, oh yeah, come roll. You go to some places, I won't name names, but it's like you're gonna have to rent the gear, their school gear, and then you're gonna have to pay a mat fee, which is not cheap, and but you still can go out there and get on the mats and kind of see the way they do things, and to me that's cool because I'll take it and I'll bring it back here, like I really like the way that they ran this, or had this idea going on, and I'll take it back here to make this place even better. So
well, which man, I really love the culture that you have on the mats. You have such a welcoming environment, and I think to your credit, there are 7 or 8 women tonight on the mat as well. Middle of the week, that's not typical. Do you think, or how would you describe, or maybe pull in and explain jiu-jitsu differently to male or female, if that's the way you go about it, or is it a different draw, or how do we keep or attract more women to jiu-jitsu as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's for me, I know there's other places like someone that I have respect for, but like Cindy, she's just kind of a draw because who she is. So there's a lot of women that will naturally gravitate towards her. But as far as here is just, I think it is just having built into the fabric of our school that this is a welcoming and safe place, and nobody's here to beat you up, and most people can feel that, including when women come in and they check us out and they see like, hey, I'm not going to get abused here, and everybody is very helpful and really just wants you to feel welcome. That's something that has organically happened here. It's not like I gave a big speech and like, hey, this is how we treat people when they come in. It's just like I model the behavior, and everybody understands that, okay, this is how we treat people here. And so it doesn't have to be me. It could be another coach running something they just know, because the behavior has been modeled. So
no, I totally felt that today in the last few times I've been in here. So it's been really cool to see. So now, let's say someone's made that transition into jiu-jitsu. They've been here for a few years. We know, hey, there's a thing called the blue belt blues, right? How do we crush that? Or what is it that's causing people at a certain amount of time in jiu-jitsu, they flee? How do we retain those people? Because it will make the world a better place having more people continuously train.
Honestly, I think before I took over, we had that for sure. I think there's people that they just kind of decide that, it's good enough. I made it to here, that's good enough for me. We really have a pretty good retention rate when it comes to that. I'll rib people, because we kind of have a rites of passage thing that we do here. When we do a blue belt promotion, it's literally just rounds for 90 minutes, and at the end of it, we do the promotion.
Real quick, I've seen that on Instagram. Is everyone doing rounds at the same time, or just, do you describe that a little more?
Just who's ever, and this was something that I stole from North Sound and Mike. It's the way I got my blue belt. Okay. I rolled for 90 minutes, and it's exhausting, and so we carried on that tradition here.
Cool.
And it's just that person. So sometimes I gotta let them know ahead of time, because maybe I want to make sure I catch them on the right day. But I try and set it up to where they don't know, and they come in and all of a sudden they're just doing rounds.
Gotcha.
And they catch on pretty quick.
So you have them coned off in the corner.
Yeah, they're in the
classes
corner,
going on.
Classes going on, and sometimes it's a little chaotic. But then we kind of put them through the ringer, and I'll joke around about it. It's like, all right, everyone say goodbye. They're gonna quit jiu-jitsu forever now. But honestly, I think for us, and I'm not like trying to brag about, it's very hard to get a blue belt here, but at the same time, like by the time you hit blue belt and you've been training here for long enough to get there, man, you're like family. You're kind of tied to us, and I do believe that helps with the blue belt blues. I think that at that point, they don't see themselves doing anything else. I mean, we've had people leave, they get their blue belt, but it's usually because they've moved away.
Right.
But they're never going to stop training.
Cool.
I
love
that. That's been a few occasions, but for the most part, our blue belts are still here, or they're purple or brown belts now.
That's great.
We do a pretty good job with that. I can't even think of the last one that got a blue belt and didn't come around. So it's been a minute.
Cool. Yeah. I love that. So now again, we're moving towards that progression in jiu-jitsu. As a coach, you've had many years on the mat now, a lot of experience watching, and I think that's actually something people forget to do. You're on the mats all the time, and unless you're coaching, but throughout my own jiu-jitsu journey, I've been injured, unfortunately, too many times, but I'll continue to go and watch. So I've seen some things from the outside. From your perspective, being on the mats, what are you seeing on the mat that you like, dislike in regards to maybe attitude, culture, or specifically technique?
Like within here?
Yeah, on the mats. Yeah, in jiu-jitsu.
You know, and for me, I just kind of look out for, you know, I'm just watching, you know. I mean, mainly when I'm going around, it's a weird thing because as I've matured when it comes to like actual coaching, I've come to an understanding that humans actually don't learn the way that I was traditionally coached, right? And I'm not sure, you know, I didn't come up through your same lineage, but I'll tell you, like, there is not this direct transfer of knowledge or skill from me to you. I don't take what I know and transfer it to you. What actually happens is I set conditions and I give you some structure. I can model some structure for you about how to deal with certain conditions. But ultimately, I create the environment that you need to adapt to. And that's where skill is truly learned, right? So if I come around and I see this newer student over here that's, you know, not doing one component of this whatever we're working on, right? And do I go over there and okay, no, start again, do this, right? With this, you know, pocket full of answers ready to go. It's hard because I have the pocket full of answers and I want to go over there and just hit them with all the answers. But really what has to happen is maybe I come through and I'll grab something and kind of move it and like, hey, how does that feel, right? Yeah. Because ultimately what I need to have happen is I need them to adapt to the conditions that they're in. So that's why, like, tonight we're doing specifically like guard passing. It's like, okay, we're gonna work on some structure, right? But then ultimately you're gonna have to figure out how to get past this person's guard on your own, because I'm not there doing it for you, right? And even like coaching from the sideline, me shouting out like, hey, take your right knee and you know, cut it across their thigh or whatever, right? Well, one, that's too mechanical. And also their opponent hears that, so they know exactly what's coming. So it doesn't work like that. Like you gotta kind of maybe have some language that they understand what you're trying to get them to do, but at the same time, like they need to feel where something feels off and be able to make the adjustments on their own. Like ultimately, that's what you need to create. So realistically, it's like finding this balance between, because when you understand that, right? And I know it, and I'm going around trying to make it coach that way, right? But it can be frustrating to a learner who thinks that I should be throwing out the answers, right? Yeah. So then it almost, in their mind, will take away my value to them. Like, well, if I'm just the one, you know, doing this, because ultimately that's what you want, is this person to develop skills, right? Yep. And really, my understanding is it is actually on you to develop the skills. It's not on me to make you develop the skills. But the learner wants me to make them learn the skills. Right. So I have to balance between, I need to make sure that they value me, right? But also I understand that ultimately it's on them to develop this.
Is that a frustration you sometimes see or hear verbally from your students of this process you're describing?
So when it comes to running this school, I have to provide like an entertainment aspect to this, right? So I will entertain things even though I understand maybe it's not the best way. Right. So I will throw out an occasional, here's an answer, here's an answer, here's an answer. Because it's got to be an enjoyable experience, but quite honestly, learning skills sometimes is miserable. Yeah. And you have to let that process, you know, but we're talking about memberships and maybe we want them to come back. Now my law enforcement students that I have are new hires and such, that they don't get that. Right. They don't get all the entertainment value. I tell them, like, some days you're gonna walk out here, you're gonna be mad at me because you struggled that day. Yeah. But understand that's part of learning skills. Yeah. You know, so they get the more direct version of my coaching. Yeah. Well, that's because they have to.
Yeah, no, of course, and their life is going to depend on that, you know. And you're touching on something that's really important. I don't know if I've actually heard the process of learning describing that way before, so that's really cool. And also, it makes me think there's no easy button. You know, it is upon you to take the learning.
But there is a way that you can shorten the curve, right? Okay. Because look, we can sit here and we can do more traditional methods where a step 1 to this guard pass is to do this. Then step 2 is next to do this, and then step 3 is next to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you practice it, and your partner lets you do it, and your partner lets you do it. Then we go live, and it's trashed immediately because your partner knows like what step 2 is and stops it before it gets going, and you struggle with it, right? And man, and maybe you try it again, damn, you know, and maybe try it again. And really what you're doing is you're gonna do that same process of adapting, right? But it's just through trial and error now because I'm trying to get to step 2, and sometimes I get to step 2, and then, so learning will still happen with that model. So you're putting it on a curve that takes much longer. As opposed to me understanding, all right, this is truly how you're gonna pick this up. I'm gonna start you here, pass or guard.
Yeah.
Right? And also, when you pass, you have to keep your chest down. Keep your chest down and pass.
Right.
And now they're going to struggle, but eventually they're going to figure it out, like just through providing the constraints and the conditions to which they're going to do this.
Yeah.
Okay. And before you know it, you have somebody low passing or whatever you're trying to convey, right? But that can be a frustrating process.
Yeah.
To do it that way.
Yeah, learning can be for sure. Well, again, we were just talking about that you had traveled and you've trained jiu-jitsu at a lot of different places. You know, how have you developed your game? What is your game specifically? You know, what are your go-tos?
I think everybody knows that I like to play like a Z guard or a half guard, and everybody here knows that, so they try like hell to avoid it. And so that's why it's nice to go visit other places that just step right into it. It's like, okay.
Which was me stepping right into that tonight. Like, I somehow just keep getting here.
Yeah. So, but mainly like my game from there, like more so what my game really is just like, I like to be very playful and really like, I like to just see where things go. Cool. And I like to have answers to no matter where it goes, there's a trap waiting for you. Cool. And that's where I find it. Now, sometimes that style, there's certain styles that destroy me, you know, and I won't go into what those are, but there's certain people that it's like, man, I have a real hard time rolling with that person. Yeah. And it's interesting because there's people like that someone will be like, man, really? They're giving you trouble? I go, yeah, it's just whatever. Stylistically, that kills me. Right? And then there's other people like, man, that dude's savage. And I go, really? Like, I have no trouble. Just like get their back every time and it's over, you know? And they're like, wow, how do you do that? It's like styles, you know? But I like to really just kind of be patient, especially like, you know, we've only rolled a couple of times now. So I want to feel out like what you're trying to do, what's your game, and you know, and just cue off of that. So that's more what I'm into. I mean, the people that I train with a lot, you know, I just like to mess with them. That's my thing, is just to piss them off. Really. The people I train with all the time, I like them good and angry.
Cool.
So,
if you had to pick one favorite submission, what would that be and why?
Oh, man. I don't know that I have one. I guess maybe, I don't know, man, I honestly, I just like getting on the back and putting a choke on. I think that's king. I think that's king. Because you get somebody's neck in a fully locked rear naked choke, and it's like, that's in game. I don't care who you are, you know? So I think, and I believe that it's harder to do that now than ever, because people are really good at not letting that happen now.
That's true.
So for me to get there, that's like, well, okay, not only did I get the sub, but that's like the king to me. I think that's the king.
Cool. And maybe what are your training partners here in the academy saying your most hunted submission is? Maybe it's not the RNC. Maybe they're telling, hey,
they're probably going to say wrist locks, because that pisses them off the most. Okay. Which again, that's
the most memorable.
Yeah, the one that I like to frustrate people with is you know, just bending their wrist the wrong way. Yep. They'll probably say that because that's the one that makes them the most angry. But who knows?
That's fun. Yeah. No, that's a fun one. Again, you've been coaching for a while now and exploring jiu-jitsu on many different levels. Has there been a memorable moment for you where maybe you had a eureka moment, where you discovered something that no one had specifically shown you in jiu-jitsu?
That's hard to say. You know, there's things that I feel like I found on my own, and then I think back and it's like, oh, you know what? So-and-so was actually trying to show me this years ago, and it just didn't register then. I mean, there's some stuff I think a lot of my kind of being on the bottom of side mount, I put myself there so much. There's little stupid things that I developed from there that I'm sure someone else has also done somewhere else. But I feel like I have a pretty good like kind of framing game and a good escape game, and even attacks from that inferior position. Nothing is more satisfying than being underneath somebody that's in side control and then you somehow wrist lock them. Like it's a magic
from bottom.
thing. Yeah.
That's so rude, but that's awesome. You're gonna have to show me these. I love that. Well, I'd actually take.
And look at this. We're talking like low percentage stuff, and it's so dumb, and that's why they get so mad. It's like that should not have happened. I go, I agree, and it probably won't ever happen again. But
especially now that you know.
Yeah.
One of my worst stories with one of my good friends, Chaz. I was on bottom. He's on top side control, and I'm defending, and he pinches, he gets a wrist lock. I didn't know that was possible a few years ago, so that's a good one.
No, but to be on top and think you're winning this, which in most circumstances I would agree. If you're on top in side control, you're winning. Yeah. But then there's just times I'll catch things a certain way, and all of a sudden tap, and you get that real panic, like your wrist is about to break, so you yell tap, and then they're pissed, right? Because it shouldn't have happened. It's funny because one of the guys in here, I won't name names, but he was like gritting his teeth, and you could tell he's almost like break it, and then it's like fuck tap, and it got to a certain point where they hit the threshold.
That's fun. So overall, right, jiu-jitsu as a whole, if you could change one thing about the jiu-jitsu community, maybe what would that be?
One thing. I think that we've all kind of come out of some of these other eras of not sharing secrets, or you can't train at other places, and that's still around, I guess, to some extent. And I definitely think that needs to go away. One thing that I will say is we're very good at like policing our own, especially in this modern area where there's a ton of social media. So when there's some like nefarious shit that goes down at school and then video leaks, then we're very good about like just smashing them out. There's truly some scandals that will pop up, but it's not like we just look the other way. It's hard to say because I do feel like there's so many great places that are doing it right, and not so many that I think are not. It's hard for me to really find a common thing throughout that I would consider needs changing. And I like that everywhere kind of has their own flavor. And I don't know. There's nothing, especially like at my level. I'm not like competing at the world level where I'll be like, steroids are a major problem. Like it doesn't have any impact on me. So, I like where things are at, and I like that it's growing, and I like that every day Jiu-Jitsu gets just bigger, and it's really cool. I wasn't there in the beginning, but I was there somewhere, and kind of. After the first couple waves or whatever, when I started, and just to see what it was like then compared to now, it's really cool. Yeah. So I don't, there's nothing I would really change, unless something does change that I'm just like, this isn't a cool thing to be doing. So.
Do you have a story for us that you don't want to be forgotten, jiu-jitsu related, maybe?
Give me an example. Like what's
maybe life lessons learned. Maybe on patrol when you were on patrol. Maybe I've had a situation in real life where jiu-jitsu, I believe, saved myself and others around me. Maybe something to that effect.
Yeah, for me, what it's always been, we like to hear a lot about de-escalation and stuff now. Before I even knew that was a word, when I was working, it was that for me, as far as like being able to just remain calm, even though someone that we're dealing with is maybe losing their shit. But it's just like, just knowing that I have skills to fall back on was invaluable, and that's why, compared to others in the profession where they might, totally be freaking out, I got out of many situations that were handled without even anything physical happening, just because it was just like, hey man, I don't want to hurt you, the way you're behaving doesn't have to go this way. And just kind of keeping that calm demeanor and just being cool with people and chill with people, even though they might be coming at you and it's big and scary. It's gotten me, through the career with out anything really getting too devastating. I mean, I've had stuff happen for sure that I won't get into, but I would say for the better part of my career, just having always trained throughout it, since before it and then during my whole career, never really letting it lapse. Maybe some gaps here or there, but always feeling like I never lost my way completely. Always having that and knowing I could fall back on it if need be was invaluable.
Cool.
So I guess it's not a specific story, but
it's a lesson.
Yeah, I mean, there's times where I had to, take people down and control them, and it was easy to do because it's not even a match. It is truly like having a superpower.
Yes.
And I try and tell my kids that to encourage them to train. It's like, hey, you know what? I am a superhero.
Yeah.
If superheroes were real, it's people that have skills versus people that do not, right?
Yeah.
And and I know your story, like the Green Lake one. Is that what you're referencing? Yeah. It's like a superpower. Is it not? It's truly, and I think even like your casual practitioner may not realize it unless they've been in a real world encounter.
Yes.
Because it's not like it's not like. I don't even really know your situation in depth, but I know it because I've been there in real world.
Yes.
It's not like you consciously thought about how you're going to handle this.
Right.
All of a sudden, you were just doing it.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's exactly, you described it to you. You could just kind of react, and it's because of the training. It was very just practical, and you're just grappling, and it happened.
And even though you were dealing with like you were at an attribute deficit. You were dealing with a bigger, stronger person, and it was still easy for you to manage, right? And that's why it's a superpower.
Correct. No, 100%. Outside of jiu-jitsu, what do you do that's good for the soul? Maybe nothing related to martial arts that you do for yourself.
I just love hanging out with my family and raising my kids and hanging with my fiance, and that I'm still like a family guy, and I know it's like a boring answer, but I love doing stuff with them and raising kids, and that's good for the soul too.
Absolutely. And, no, that's not boring answer. Family's super important. I'm right there with you.
I wear all these hats, but that one's an important one. For me, like that time's super important, and when I get to do it, it to me is just as amazing as coming here and training on the mats. So.
I love hearing that. Man, well, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me.
Of course, man.
Twist me up into knots on the mat tonight, so that was a blast.
You were being nice.
No, man. Yes, I really appreciate it. You built, again, an amazing culture here, and I appreciate everything you do for the jiu-jitsu community, because, again, you did more for me than you know it by bringing people into this community and doing seminars. So it's awesome, man. You're probably affecting more people outside than you realize. We're in Edmonds, Washington, right? Kindred Jiujitsu. Where can people find you, the school, the social media website?
Yeah, kindredjj.com. That's the easiest way to find out information about the school. We got an Instagram, we got a Facebook, it's Kindred, whatever, you can find it. My personal Instagram is at McCutch79, but it's like I did change a letter to a 7 in there somewhere. So
I'll put it in the show notes.
You can search my name, and you can find me on there. I don't have a private account. I don't have anything super revealing on there. It's mostly just jiu-jitsu shit.
Yep.
So yeah, you can check me out on there. I'm on there somewhat. I'm not super active in posting and stuff, but you got some exciting stuff coming up. Three seminars I heard you talk about. I'm coming to one this Sunday. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know when this will actually get put out to the public, but we've got Justin Flores this Sunday, which is January 29th. We've got Brianna St. Marie coming February 25th, 7 p.m. That's a Friday. It'll be a no-gi seminar as well. We've got April 10th. We got Nikki Rod coming for a seminar. So
That's
yeah, you
exciting.
can find information for that on our website. If you go to like I think it's like the membership info.
Yeah.
There's links to register for these things. So.
Yeah.
And I can highly recommend for you guys, get out there, do the seminars. It ups your game more than you know. You're in the, your Monday through Friday normal routine at your normal gym. When you get out there and train with and learn from other people who are high level, high experience, that's going to help modify your game and help you learn more jiu-jitsu, grappling. So.
Plus, there's like the community aspect to it. It's like you come, and maybe you're coming for this particular person, but you get to meet a lot of different people that you don't normally train with.
Yeah.
So that's
Awesome.
another cool aspect to it.
Brother, I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you for sitting down with me.
Yeah.
Hey
Thanks for
guys,
having
go
me.
there and do what's good for the soul. Guys, if you've made it this far along, finished the interview, I just want to thank you again for supporting me along this journey, and hopefully you got something awesome out of that interview. I really enjoy doing these, learning so much about life, jiu-jitsu, and everyone has such a unique and interesting perspective. So I hope you got something out of that that you can take with you. And one last reminder, for 10% off on any Jocko Fuel products or Origin USA products, go to jockofuel.com or originusa.com. Support yourself by getting some awesome products, supplements, protein shakes, greens, all that good stuff. It helps support me along this journey, and again, supports yourself and an American-made company. So yeah, jockofuel.com. Check it out, guys. Thank you very much.